over a thoracic mobility foam roll here with Sam. So one thing we want to make sure is that we're actually bridging up on the hips and we're getting a lot of pressure over the T-spine. Sometimes when we don't activate our hip muscles, our glutes, we can sometimes get a little bit overarching lumbar spine and not effectively attack the T-spine. So Sam's going to come up here, she's going to bridge up off her hips, and she's going to roll back and just focus on one segment at a time, just focusing on extending those 2 vertebrae at a time, taking nice deep breaths and spending 10-15 seconds on each level and just working our whole way up the T-spine. Stuff. So we're going to go over banded Brugers. So this is great to follow up after a T-spine roll with foam. So first thing we're going to do is take some towels here, we're going to put them underneath the armpits. This is going to help keep the elbows in and get a nice scapular retraction. Now I'm going to cue Sam to bring her shoulders down and back, and now she's just going to open that band apart. Okay? Awesome. Things you're going to look for is that she's not shrugging too much, which Sam's doing a great job of right now. She's nice and tucked back and get a lot of scapular traction. Okay guys, so we're going to go over a psoas stretch here. So we're going to be down on one knee. The side that's down is going to be the side that we're stretching, okay? So a common misconception or a mistake that I see with this stretch is when people go and they lean forward, we get a large arch in the low back, okay? That's no good. It's going to place a lot of stress at the low back. We want to get a good stretch in the front of the hip. So a cue to kind of correct this is going to be to squeeze the glutes, rock the hip back, and then lean forward. You'll be able to appreciate the stretch way more in the front of the hip and thigh. So here with Sam, going over some core strengthening stuff. So specifically the side bridge, or glute side bridge. This is going to be really good at targeting the obliques and the glute medius. So Sam is going to come up onto her knees, and she's going to push forward. She's going to clamshell here, squeezing the glutes, get a nice activation. And come back down, okay? So one thing I don't want Sam to do is to sink into the shoulder. So she's doing a really good job on pushing out and create a nice stable shoulder here. So one time she's gonna come up, forward, clamshell, and boom, that's a perfect side bridge. Awesome, thanks. Okay, so for this exercise, it's called an open book. This is great for any thoracic mobility work. So specifically, we're gonna be targeting thoracic rotation, but if you have trouble getting to a rack position or extension, this is also gonna be great for that. So Sam is going to be here. She has her leg on a foam roller. She's below parallel, so knee above the hip crease. And now she's slowly going to bring this top arm and rotate, reaching as far as she can. Great. Okay? And back. So Sam has excellent mobility. Most people probably won't have this. So you want to rotate until the leg starts to come off the foam roller. Once you start feeling that leg coming off, we're going to stop, try to reach as far as we can, and then come back and just explore that end range. So one more time, Sam, let's get a good rotation. Awesome. And back. There we go, it's open. So here we have the eclipse roller. We're going over some calf mobility, ankle mobility. We're gonna be really mashing out the calf. So first, Sam's gonna be just rolling back and forth, finding a tender area called scanning. And once she finds those tender spots, she's gonna focus on it, and she's just gonna be rocking her ankle back and forth, looking for those extreme range of motions. You might hear some cracks, you might hear some pops. That's fine, as long as they're not painful. That's just gas being released in the joint. So go ahead and move your ankle in circles. Awesome, move clockwise, counterclockwise. Just exploring all ranges of motion of the ankle while we're mashing those tissues out. Okay guys, so having Sam demonstrate a nice tempo eccentric kettlebell squat. This is great for a warm-up, opening the hips, or even rehabbing a low back injury. So I'm gonna have Sam very slowly dive deep down into her squat, 3-second countdown. And once she hits that bottom, she's gonna pause. She's just gonna explore the range of the motion there, really opening up the ankles, opening up the hips. She's gonna come right back up. Notice that she's going very slow. She's not rushing this movement. So back down, nice 3-second countdown. She's staying very tight, just like if she had a lot of weight on her back, okay? She has that intention of moving and going through this motion properly. So I have Sam here. We're going over some core stuff. Going over specifically the dead bug, okay? So we're gonna make sure Sam has a nice stiff core. She's gonna come, legs are gonna come up in the air, arms are gonna come up in the air. She's bracing, shoulders are off the table, and now she's gonna alternate arm and leg coming down to the table. Great. And you see Sam staying up. She's got a nice core brace. No arching of the low back. Just getting the work done. So Got Sam here. We're gonna be demonstrating a broom stretch. It's really good for stretching out the lats and the shoulders. So any kind of front rack stuff, overhead stuff, this is a great warm up. So Sam is going to grab a broomstick or a dowel. She's gonna grab nice and wide, a little bit wider than her elbows. So she's gonna be in like an external rotated position here on the table. So elbows are on the table, and now she's slowly gonna sink back into her hips, trying to push her head through her arms. Just like this. She's gonna feel a good stretch in the shoulder and in the lats here. And now she can go back and forth. She can hold this stretch. She can do a contract relax where she's going into the stretch for 10 seconds and then resisting the stretch for 10 seconds. Play around with this and see how you feel and how the shoulders kind of work with the stretch. Got Sam here demonstrating a frog stretch. This is gonna be really great for opening up the hips, specifically the inner thigh muscles, the adductor muscles. So Sam's gonna get into a quadruped position like she is now. She's gonna straddle the table or straddle the floor, really opening up the hips. And now she's gonna sink her hips forward, backward, just exploring that hip range of motion. This is a great thing to do for any kind of lower body work, any kind of squats, back squat, front squat, overhead squat, really to open up this hip mobility before we really get down under a barbell. So same thing goes, we can go hold a static stretch, we can go back and forth, or we can contract and relax. Okay, you guys, we're gonna be demonstrating a swimmer's exercise. So this is great for shoulder mobility, especially if you are limited in internal or external rotation of the shoulder. So we're gonna start on our stomach. We're gonna have our head in contact with the floor, so Sam has a little towel there underneath her. We never wanna leave contact off that place, okay? So she's gonna start with her hands at the low back, and now she's gonna swing her arms around in a sweeping motion here. Coming overhead. We never want her hands to come in contact with the floor or with the table. So she's having a good motion here, and she's gonna relax. And one more from me, Sam, coming over here, sweeping, really exploring all ranges of her shoulder and upper T-spine. Okay guys, so we're gonna do a single RDL here with Sam. This is great for any kind of pulling motion or hip hinging motion, so power cleans, deadlifts. We're gonna get the foot rooted into the floor here, okay? And now she's gonna lean forward into a hip hinge. She's gonna come back up and relax, Sam. So notice that when she's going through there, she has a nice stable core, her glutes are engaged, she's not rounding, and she's really hinging at the hip. She's not using any other limbs to kind of work and compensate that motion. So one more time, Sam. Nice, steady, stable core, hip hinge, glutes are engaged, and back up. That's single leg RDL. We can use that with a kettlebell, barbell, or dumbbell, but just use caution with your loading. So here with Sam, I'm gonna demonstrate a doorway stretch. This is gonna stretch the pec muscles and the shoulder girdle. So this is great if you're classic desk jockey. You have lots of hours sitting in front of a computer or on a desk. So we're gonna come against the wall or a doorway, get a nice perpendicular angle here with our arm, and then we're gonna lean forward into the wall. Okay, get a nice stretch in the shoulder. And I'm gonna have Sam look to her right, so she's looking away from the arm she's stretching. And she's gonna hold this for about 30 seconds. So, like I said, this is for the pec, so we wanna feel a stretch in the chest. If we feel it in the shoulder, it means we have a lot of tightness in the shoulder capsule, so we're gonna adjust the stretch, either bringing the arm up, creating a larger angle at the shoulder blade, or we're gonna bring the arm down a little below that perpendicular line. And just experimenting, see which area we get the most stretch in the pectoral area and not in the shoulder. Okay, so you have Sam here demonstrating a wall angel. Another great thoracic mobility exercise or shoulder mobility exercise. Really great if you're doing any kind of overhead work. So Sam is gonna start with her hands overhead. Okay, I'm gonna bring my hand to the small of her back. Just make sure she's flattening. So flattening in here, Sam. See how the rib cage tucks down? She does that. Okay, now she's gonna reach down as far as she can, let her elbows slide against the wall until she feels that low back start to come up. That's perfect, Sam. Now back up. Great. So Sam has really good mobility in this exercise. A lot of people will have trouble keeping their forearms against the wall, so they will come out a little bit like this. Okay? Once you start to feel your forearms coming off the wall is where you're gonna stop. So even if it's a small range of motion, just go ahead and explore that small range, trying to reach for more end range. Okay guys, we're gonna demonstrate the Cossack squat or side lunge. So we got a nice wide base here. Sam's planted into the floor. And now she's gonna squat down to the side. This foot staying nice and flat. And once she hits that bottom position, up onto the heel, rotate toe up. Great. Now you're gonna come back up, Sam, into the other side. Foot's flat, foot rotates up and back. Great lateral hip opener before squat day. What's going on, guys? Got Sam here, going over some core work, specifically the bird dog, okay? So the bird dog is one of Stu McGill's big three, one of the highly recommended exercises I give to anyone who has low back pain. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get into a quadruped position. Our knees are right under our hips, our hands are right under our shoulders. We're gonna get a nice core brace like we're bracing for a punch. Now I have my little honesty peanut I'm gonna put on her back to make sure she's not shifting and deviating out of the pelvis. So she's gonna pretend like she's smashing through a floor with her leg, and then she's gonna reach up with her opposite arm. So right there. And we're gonna do all one side at once, making sure that we're staying nice and stiff, we're not shifting the pelvis, which Sam is doing an awesome job of doing right now. Okay guys, here's probably the most ultimate mobility work we can do. I think it is the most bang for your buck exercise in the repertoire. So Sam's gonna go into a down dog position, and now she's gonna lunge up to her hand, and she's gonna take rotation from the T-spine here. So she's gonna rotate up one side, and she's gonna come in, she's gonna rotate from the other. Good. She's gonna come back, and then the other hip's gonna come up. So this is great for opening up the hips and also the T-spine. So any kind of lower body work, any kind of squatting, great exercise to do beforehand. So we have Sam here going over the glute bridge. So a couple things to get prepared and set up right. We're gonna get the heels as close as we can to the butt. Perfect, just like that. And now we wanna make sure that we're cueing the pelvis. So we wanna make sure that we're rocking the pelvis down, tilting the pelvis down before we lift up off the table. Good. And she's bracing, she's staying tight, she's keeping her glutes tight. Just going back and forth. There you go. So Sam here with me again. We're gonna go over another core exercise called the hollow hold. So it's similar to the dead bug. So legs are gonna come up in the air, shoulders off the ground, and we're holding. So it's kind of like a double dead bug. You can go relax. This is a very tiring exercise, so take your time with this. Start with dead bug first before we really progress over into a hollow hold. Okay guys, here with Sam, going over some more thoracic mobility and serratus activation. So the first thing we're gonna do is a cat camel. So you're gonna be on hands and knees, and we're gonna have Sam explore her range of motion. She's gonna come into a cat, or this is actually camel, sorry. And now she's gonna extend down into the cat position. So we're just moving real slow back and forth, just exploring our end ranges of motion. And now we're gonna progress into a more intense exercise called the push with a plus. So we're gonna be on our feet, like a push-up position. We're gonna sink into our shoulder blades. We're gonna push out into a rounded back in a nice activation of her serratus. Perfect. What's going on, guys? We have Sam here, and we're gonna do a little progression from our RDL. It's called a hip airplane. So this is really great if we have any kind of hip pain, lateral hip pain, or frontal hip pain when we squat. This is gonna be a great lateral hip opener and strengthener. So Sam's gonna get into a RDL position, so she's rooted into the floor, nice stable core, and now she is going to hip hinge. And once she gets into her hip hinge, she's gonna rotate at the hip, trying to open the navel up towards the wall over there, looking up towards the ceiling. And now she's gonna sink down. Hip is gonna sink down into a bowler stance. Okay, so not only are we stretching, we're also strengthening that hip. Hey guys, I have Sam here. We're gonna go over an elevated kneeling calf stretch. This is gonna be great to do after any kind of ankle mobilization, so whether it be a calf smash or a banded distraction. Perfect for squat day, perfect for opening the ankles up. So Sam's gonna come in here, one foot on the table or on a box, your preference, and now she's gonna lean forward, okay? She's making sure her hips are square, and now once she reaches that end range, she's gonna put her hand over top of that knee. She's gonna put a little bit more pressure, so she's really trying to get a lot of stretch in the calf and maybe even the Achilles area as well, okay? So we can do a static stretch for 30 seconds. We can do more of a dynamic stretch where she's kind of moving back and forth, in and out of that position. Or we can do a contract relax where she's going as deep as she can in the stretch for 10 seconds, and then she's kind of pushing her toes into the table for 10 seconds, and then back in the stretch, back and forth, alternating between both. Okay guys, so I have Sam here going over our clocks mobility work. So this is a progression from the open books. Great for the T-spine, great for the shoulders. Really good at kind of opening up that mid-back for any kind of rack or overhead work. So we're gonna start in the open book position. So our leg is on a foam roller, knee is above the hip crease, so we're keeping that lumbar spine stabilized. And now Sam is gonna take her top arm and she's gonna drag that along the floor all the way around. And then she's gonna come back. All the way back around. So as with every mobility exercise we've done, Sam has excellent mobility. So most people won't be able to keep contact with the ground. So when she's coming around, you can actually see her hand dragging across the floor and she's maintaining that contact. If you're going through this and your hand is coming off the ground, that is going to be your end range place. So you're going to stop once your hand comes off and go back to your original starting position. Each time after that, we're going to try to get a little bit farther in end range position. So explore your ranges and see how this feels. So we're going to demonstrate an IYT. This is great for lower trap strengthening, but really good for opening up the shoulders and get them ready for any kind of work. So any kind of overhead press, any kind of bench press, awesome warm up to do. So we're going to start with the I. So Sam's going to be on the ball, reaching up in an I position. Obvious enough. Now she's going to come down. She's going to leave with her knuckles, form a Y. Good. She's going to come down, and she's going to come out to the side for the T. Pinkies are leading the way. Okay, so we can do this on a ball like I have Sam here doing. We can do it on an incline bench, on a flat bench. We just want to be our chest supported. We use barbell, or not barbell, we use dumbbells, bands, for any kind of resistance we want to use.